Hi, everyone. I'm James Garbutt.
And I'm Denny Dumas.
And this is the Garbutt Dumas Real Estate Podcast. Denny, it's early in the year and we're trying to build momentum. That's what this episode is about.
We are.
You like that intro? This is for realtors mostly, but I guess maybe for homeowners that receive our marketing in the mail. We apologize, but unfortunately, there is a purpose for it. And real estate does have seasons. And right now we're doing this podcast in March, and March is early season. And when it's early in the year, it is building season. And building season means you need more listings, you need more sales, you need more stories to tell. So you get more phone calls and you get more listings and sales for the rest of the year. You want that any extra listing that gets those phone calls will reap rewards and add to your momentum for the rest of the year if you work it right. And so the whole purpose of today's podcast here is the importance of building momentum early in the year and how it will improve the rest of your year if you do it right.
Yeah. If you live in our markets, and the areas that we market often are New West, Burnaby, Tri-Cities, if you live in those areas and you see our faces 15 times in the first few months of the year, and you think it's a mistake, like Canada Post screwed up and they just kept sending them to your specific neighborhood, it's not a mistake. It's very strategic. Early in the year is an opportunity to, like Jamie said, that extra listing, that extra couple listings in a neighborhood, that can go 5 times, 10 times down the road as other neighbors in the neighborhood see your signpost out front of a couple of their neighbors' homes, and they see 40 people come through their showing, and they see that sold price be $200,000, $300,000 higher than their other neighbor last summer. It looks good on you, and that's really what we kind of want to share with you today is our strategic marketing plan through the seasons of real estate. And in a busy year like this, anyone who watches this or follows us knows that we spend a ton of time online marketing on our website, on SEO, on our social media platforms, on
this podcasts.
And I like to think of the online stuff that we do pretty aggressively compared to others in our industry is long-term building, is building brand, is building trust with consumers long-term. And what we kind of want to talk about is early in the year, how to get that extra listing. And a lot of it is traditional.
Yes.
I'm not a huge fan of traditional marketing.
Never have been.
I just feel like the money goes away. Like you spend a few $1,000s on flyer drops.
You're not wrong.
You don't get a phone call in like 5 days, and you're like, well, all that stuff I just spent a lot of money on is now in the garbage. So, but it can be really, really beneficial early in the year to get that one extra listing and then continue to build off that. It's more stories to tell on social. So it continues to build trust and awareness and this image that you are the local expert in this specific neighborhood. But you are a big fan of flyers. Especially early in the year.
I'm a fan of it. I wish that it didn't exist, but in the world that flyers exist, you have to kind of do what works. Not that it works effectively well, but there is a time and a place for it. I guess to kind of recap on Denny's thoughts with the online and social, I think for social media, it's important to have it consistent and engaging year-round. You're trying to build a following. It's a long-term benefit. For your website, quality content, long-term benefit. You want visitors to have a good experience there, and you want them coming back. Our podcasts, we're trying to add value, long-term content benefit there. But if we're sitting here in March and we want a listing to sell next week, social media, quality content on the website and podcast may not get that seller in Glenbrook North where our office is that we want. And if we want a seller in Glenbrook North this month, you have to go back to the traditional tactics. And that, if you have signs out because you have listings, great, they see your signs. If you door knock, well, that's how you get right to those sellers in that neighborhood. But if you don't have the time for that, sometimes that's where print marketing comes in. And that's what our team does more so early in the year than later in the year for that reason. So what Denny's talking about is these thousands of dollar drops that we send out to get 2 phone calls at best that seem like it's just a waste of money a lot of the time. And most of the time it is. Yeah. But I'd like to think that over the years, and I have a very poor history of tracking it, I'd like to think it's like a 2-to-1 return. So you spend $10,000 on flyers and mailouts and print, and you might get $20,000 back, which to some might sound like a great return, but honestly, it's not. The hope, though, is that return that you did get, you did an exceptional job with that listing or client. And if you have good systems and good service, the hope is you use that one listing that had that 2-to-1 return on your print marketing, but you get the next listing from it and you maintain that relationship. And over 5-10 year horizon, it might be a 10-to-1 return or a 20-to-1 return. And so that's ultimately the long-term goal. But essentially, if you have a few extra listings in May, March, April that you may not have had if you didn't do traditional marketing that way to get direct to those sellers, you're not going to have as many phone calls. And I must say, when you're trying to build your name in this business and trying to build your presence in the business, every success story matters. So if you have that extra listing in February and you do an outstanding job with it and have a great outcome, you can tell that story of that February sale in March or April to better your chance of getting the next listing. Yeah. Also, you have something else to send to the neighbors, whether you send it by cards, you knock on their door, and they also see your sign. So just that, the important thing is working the listing and not just selling it and moving on. Working the neighborhood, letting everyone know what happened, and hopefully using that sale to get the next one. And then using the next sale to get the next one after that.
Totally. Yeah. Social media is fantastic long-term to build, like we said, trust through your follower group, through your demographic, through people that are watching you. These flyers and the stuff that we do early in the year, often, especially in busy years like this, we are probably spending 2 or 3 times what we would in a slower year on print marketing. We're trying to hit a different demographic. We're trying to hit different people that maybe have seen our signs in the neighborhood, maybe have seen us sell their neighbors' homes, and we're just trying to get them to remember us, remember our brand, remember our faces. Maybe they're not social media users. Maybe they're not our specific followers. Maybe they've used a different realtor in the past. But if you're sharing the stories and sharing the solds after you sell these listings, it can absolutely snowball. And we've seen it. Like, that's something that really built momentum for us in the 2 crazy years, 2016, 17, right? And those were kind of 2 breakout years for our business and our brand. And
2016, like, just particularly because 2016 was, it was a record year for us by quite a jump. And it was a year where, I think, if I remember it right, Denny, we had sold 100 properties by the end of June. Was that the year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is still the only year we've done that.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll see what 2021 has
Except for 2020. Yeah.
But back then, it was clear as day. I particularly went as aggressive as I could early in the year because I'm behind a lot of the traditional marketing here, and it worked. And I think that the big thing that established is we got those early listings, marketed them like crazy. And the nice thing about when you get a house listing, for example, you do a just listed flyer. All the neighbors get to see what's coming up, and there's a good chance a buyer or an offer may come from a neighbor or someone the neighbors know. Secondly, when it sells, neighbors are curious to know the sale price. So you want to lure them with some sort of print marketing to call you for that sale price and then you maintain that relationship. But overall, what we did really well in 2016 was we marketed every listing aggressively that we had, and we used it to get the next one and the next one. And we just had success story after success story. And that generated another level of momentum that we had never seen prior to that. And since then, we've been more established with the detached market in, say, New Westminster, and some other areas as well.
In 2016, 17, early in the year, obviously it was different. It was a different market, and we had open houses. Open houses are great in neighborhoods like the ones that we work in, Glenbrook North, Queen's Park, because a lot of neighbors come through. And so it gives, having that listing gives you the opportunity to talk to a bunch of those neighbors. And not that is happening right now, but for example, we have a listing in Queen's Park that listed yesterday. I put a sign up on Friday, I think. And over the weekend, I had 3 phone calls from neighbors, 2 of which made it very clear that they were just out walking their dog. Hello, this is Mary. I'm just out walking my dog. Okay, great. What's going on? I just saw your sign. inquiring, right? It's just opportunities. Having a sign out front, getting that extra early listing is opportunity to meet more people in the neighborhood, for people to inquire, asking what's coming up. Oh, I think my mom is really looking to move into the neighborhood. Can we come see it? So it snowballs, man.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why we do it. I hate with a passion admitting that it can work. And the only time that I'll admit it can work is early in the year. But early in the year, it does make a difference in getting the year off right and building that momentum going into the spring.
So realtors, don't try to push your vacations to the later August, December. Maybe January is okay. But February, March, April, May, those are important months.